Continue the series of the great rabbis of yesteryear. Now, the first of Kislev, this month, as we enter this month of Kislev, month of Hanukkah, marked the Hilula of a great rabbi, Rabbi Massoud Hai Baruch. He was a great rabbi of his time, respectively, and a rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before he passed away right at the end of the 19th century in the year 1899. I'm not too sure the date he was actually born per se, but he was very much a great rabbi in and of itself. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, he came, I believe, and was born actually in Tiberias, in Israel. Tiberias being one of the four holy cities of Israel, along with Tzfat, Jerusalem, and also Hebron, respectively, over there. Now, while he was young, he would learn under the auspices of, I think, the Chacham Bashir at the time, Harab Aaron al-Khadif. Very, very interesting enough, if I'm not mistaken. And I think in 1898, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually appointed the rabbi of Tiberias. So it's actually Rabbi Massoud Hai Baruch will end up going to Mitzrayim. He would settle in Alexandria over there. It's a place we've spoken about, had quite a strong Torah community over there. I think that was under auspices of Rabbi Bachor Chazan, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to speak about him in due course. I think he'd be appointed the rabbi of the city of Alexandria. I think this was in the year 18. If I'm not mistaken, 1888 it was. He was opened over there. And I'll continue. The Yirat Shamayim, he had the Chacham, the wise, the wisdom the rabbi had in of itself was absolutely phenomenal in of itself. So I think he passed away in the 1898, and it could be towards the end of his life, if I'm not mistaken, he'd become the rabbi of Tiberias, of the city, right towards the end of his life. I've just got to confirm on that, but I believe he did pass away. According to the Homey website, he passed away in the year 1899. Now, he would publish great books, included the Marpeh, Lנפש. This was a famous book. What does this book entail? Various different Drashot, Mosar, let's just say, on itself, Ramazim Be'ir Alexandria. It was, I think, very much connected to while he was working in Alexandria in of his time. This was, and doing very important. I think it was actually printed, I think, right at the end of the 19th century in the year 1899. Hu bikesh lichtov chelek sheni shel hasefer ach lo zacha lotzi leor. I think he wanted to print the second volume of the book. Maybe it was in manuscript form, but I think at the end it wasn't successful to actually get it to the printing place at that point in time while he was alive, at least. Now, I'm not too sure they actually know the exact date when he passed away, but the Haimi website will mark the Hilula of his on Aleph Kislev. For this reason, I think, because that was the date when I think their signatures came out for the Haskama of his book, the Marpeh Lנפש, through the great rabbis at that point in time, Rabbi Aaron al-Khadif, who would very much give the Haskama, the approval to this specific book in itself. We're going to explore some of the highlights of the books of Rabbi Bdokh in due course. But a key rabbi at that time in Alexandria was another rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions, Rabbi Bachor Chazan. I think he passed away several years after Rabbi Bdokh passed away. Rabbi Bachor Chazan. We'll speak maybe about Rabbi El Khadif also in a minute, who was the chief rabbi. He lived between 1848 to 1908. Rabbi Chazan, I think, was the head of Jewish court in Jerusalem. So like Rabbi Bdokh was working in Tiberias, he was working in Jerusalem, respectively, at that point in time, head of Jewish court. He was a chief rabbi of Tripoli. He'd go on to become in Luv, in Libya, respectively. And he'd be chief rabbi also in Alexandria, Mitzrayim, and would author various different great Torah works. So remember, Rabbi Bachor Chazan would have a connection with the famous Rabbi Bdokh, who would also be in a prime position in Alexandria, respectively. So there was a strong connection between those two rabbis. Anyone that's joining in the channel at the moment, welcome to our community, and please subscribe to the channel. We've got fantastic content over here where we speak about loads of different great rabbis of yesteryear from the Oriental country. So please subscribe to our community, subscribe to the channel over here. Okay, let's explore a bit within regards to Rabbi Bachor Chazan, Rabbi Chazan's life over here. He was considered by many, he was a Zionist, I think. He was very, very close. He was doing various different works, trying Yeshuv within regards to Eretz Yisrael, people coming to Eretz Yisrael in of itself. and was helping many Jewish people inside the community, respectively. Let's explore a bit within regards to him now that we're on the topic. I think it actually came from Izmir, if I'm not mistaken, from Turkey. In the year 1848, Rav Chazan was born from a family great Rabbonim in of itself, respectively, from Spain, I believe. I think they actually connect themselves to the house of David, King David, if I'm not mistaken. His great grandfather, I think, was Rabbi Raphael Yosef Chazan. Remember, he was a great rabbi, and Rabbi Chaim David Chazan was the author of the Shut Nadiv Lev, and I think he was actually the Rishon LeZion, the chief rabbi, if I'm not mistaken, which is a phenomenal position. This was at that point in time his grandfather was. I think he would get married, I think, to Rabbinit Dina, who was the daughter of Rabbi Yeshua Bar Daki, another great rabbi from Jerusalem. Now, Rav Chazan would perform greatness in Israel also, just like Rabbi Badוך, who happened to be speaking about today, was a prominent rabbi in Tiberias. Rav Chazan would become a prominent rabbi also over there. I think he would go to Eretz Yisrael at one point in time. Obviously, I think it was actually through the advice through his through Rav Chaim David Chazan, if I'm not mistaken, and would learn Torah at that point in time in Jerusalem, the capital city of Eretz Yisrael, respectively, over there. So he would perform greatness. I think it was apparent that Rav Eliyahu Bechor Chazan, how great he would actually become, even at a young age. I think in 1865, he was only 18 years of age. He would be already been working as a sofer. He was a secretary of the Jewish court over there, of the Sephardi Jewish court in Jerusalem. I think come on 1869, he was appointed a part of the Bet Din of another great rabbi over there. We'll just clarify, I'll just find out who the rabbi was. That he would be, I think, part of the Bet Din, if I'm not mistaken, of Rab Avram Ashkenazi, another great rabbi together. And remember, he was actually working with Rabbi Rachamim Yosef Franco, another great rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before here on this Magnum series, and he would be eventually appointed as a head. He'll be eventually appointed as a head of Jewish court in Jerusalem, and I think he would be working many brilliances in of itself. There'll be a kollel for the Sephardi community also in Jerusalem, and working, I believe, in Shechita. He was a kosher slaughterer at that point in time, and would be ordained also. I think he become a Shluchei Rabbanan Rav Eliyahu Bechor Chazan. You can see many of these great rabbis that become very prominent in those days. They would take on Shluchei Rabbanan roles, where many of them would, let's just say, would take on these roles, but they would really garner up huge experience, let's just say, in of itself, because of the experience they had traveling around the different countries across the world, working with different communities, exploring and meeting some of the great rabbis from those countries. So he becomes Shluchei Rabbanan also, representing Jerusalem. I think in 1870, if I'm not mistaken, he would go to various different countries in Europe over there, really to raise funds for Jerusalem, the capital city of Eretz Yisrael. And he was able, I think, to speak several languages, if I'm not mistaken. He was able to speak Arabic, he was speaking Spanish, he was speaking Italian, and was really doing great amounts, let's just say, especially during his travels. That would very much help him out. It's actually interesting. I think he would also go to visit England, if I'm not mistaken. Also, he'll be visiting France. So you can see he was very all over Europe. He was visiting and taking on various importances. And that will really benefit him later on. If I'm not mistaken, he famously met Moses Montefiore, the famous philanthropist over there, if I'm not mistaken. And it could be he met Brown Edmund James Rothschild, if I'm not mistaken, who was head of the congregation in Italy. I think in 1872, Rabbi Eliyahu would actually go out on other shlichut to Algiers and to Morocco and Tunisia in of itself, and in his travelings he would so he would do huge amounts. 1874 more will actually occur at that point in time. I think it was after the Rabbi of Tripoli passed away, Rabbi Abraham Chaim Adadi. He was I think he was appointed as a rabbi of the community of Tripoli, of Libya, respectively, and that would be a massive position at that point in time for him, a massive feat, and really help his career tremendously. And that will actually take him towards his important position, let's just say, where become a head rabbi in Alexandria respectively. Let's explore a bit more within regards to him. While he was the chief rabbi of Tripoli, much will actually he'll be doing huge amounts over there. I think it was between 1874 to 1888. Remember, Rabbi Badוך passed away in 1898. So in 1888, when he eventually comes to Egypt, he'll be working very much with Rabbi Badוך. So he'll become the chief rabbi in 1874 of Tripoli, of the Jewish community over there. And I think, it's the title of Chambashi, if I'm not mistaken. And would be founded the Talmud Torah there, if I'm not mistaken, for the congregation in of itself, and Beit Knesset for Kehila, and really it would sour at that point in time, would really improve from strength to strength, very much to his importance as, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was close to another rabbi, Rabbi Mordechai HaKohen, who lived between 1856 and 1929. I think in his book, Hagid Mordechai, he actually writes within regards to his workings inside Tripoli itself, respectively, which is something very, very important to point out within regards to Rav Eliyahu Chazan. And in 1888, come on then, he became the chief rabbi of Alexandria, a very prominent position that would be over there. And over there, he had various different important roles, and remember at that point in time he'll be working with Rabbi Badוך at that point in time. Rabbi Badוך, who we're speaking about today, who Hayomi Citus marked as his Hilula here on Aleph Elul. So I think he was working specifically in the central districts in Mitzrayim, respectively. I was doing huge amounts of important work with the Jewish community, and he was giving rabbinic ordinations to people inside the country, strengthening various different dinims, kashrut, for example, and various other Jewish life cycle topics in of itself. Chinuch, there was a Beit Knesset, the synagogues over there, and taking care of the needs of the community itself at that stage in time. So it was doing like a lot of, you can say, very, very important undertakings at that point in time. And you can see how his time will actually progress to become a top rabbi over there. Now, anyone tuning in live, we're exploring the history of a great rabbi today, Rabbi Badוך. It happens to be marked his Hilula at the moment. So we're going on a bit of a tangent, and we're speaking about other great rabbis who he was working with also. Especially at the moment, we're speaking also about a chief rabbi who was a chief rabbi of both Libya and of Egypt. Rabbi Eliyahu Bechor Chazan, we're just speaking a few words with regards to him, because he had a strong connection with Rabbi Badוך, who was also very much a great rabbi of his time, also in Tiberias. That's something that we have to point out also, friends. So anyone joining in live at the moment, please subscribe to the channel, and please join. And we are nearing at the moment a staggering, I believe, as many as 8,000 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement over here. Okay. Let's continue a bit more within regards to this. So he was doing important undertakings in Egypt at that stage in time. That was what we're speaking about, Rav Eliyahu Bechor Chazan. And what's interesting is I think he would actually arrive back in Eretz Yisrael just towards the end of his life, if I'm not mistaken. I think within Tafresh Samachet, he would go to Eretz Yisrael, and in Jerusalem he would set up a Beit Midrash Rabbanim, rabbinic study hall over there. And very, very much that was important. I think he was close to Rabbi Ben Sion Meir Chai Uziel, if I'm not mistaken, and he would later on become a chief rabbi of Israel, and will be doing huge amounts of undertakings. I think he passed away actually in the year 1908, and so he was a great rabbi, but he was very much connected with the rabbi we happen to be speaking about today, Rabbi Badוך, over here. I think he released various different books. Many books he did within regards to various different important Torah topics in of itself. That's something that we have to point out over here. The Ta'ulamat Taleb, this was a book, a Shut Shelot Shuvot question answers book, which is on the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, respectively, which are very, very important writings, let's just say, in of itself. I think it will be printed in Israel, Syria, Turkey, various different places, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a very, very important publication. I think more books he will actually print. Rav Eliyahu Bechor Chazan. And remember, printing press was thriving at that window in time, including the Zichron Yerushalayim. I think that was printed 1874. There were various different cheleks of the Talmud Lev that was open. The Nevei Shalom was another important book in 1894. Yismach Lev, which came out in Livorno in 1874. Asafat Dinim in 1902. The Tehillah LeDavid, another great important work. The Devar Eliyahu, the Zichron Eliyahu. and so on and so forth. But this is Rabbi Eliyahu Bachor Chazan, who was very much working with Rabbi Bdokh. Let's go back now to Rabbi Bdokh a bit, and we're talking about his books. He had the Torah Colossal Work that he actually released at that stage in time. Rabbi Bdokh did. His book, as we mentioned before, was printed in 1899, I believe, and Merpah, Lennefesh. Let's explore a few of the highlights of his great book, respectively, over here today, because it's I think it's very, very important, opportune to actually speak about it over here. Anyone tuning in live at the moment, please subscribe to the channel. We're a community here where we are exploring the history of the various different great rabbis from various different places in the Oriental countries. And welcome, and please subscribe to our community now. Okay, so let's explore a few of the highlights from his book. One teaching he gives, Rabbi Bdokh, in his Sefer, yes, he states over, Melamed, Yom Ba V'Am Hal-Holech V'Al Yisrael Le'olam Kayem, the importance of Am Yisrael in of itself, and how the whole world is standing because of the mitzvot of Am Yisrael. That's something that he very much advocates. I think it's actually featured in the 5th page on Amud Bet. Also, remember, this book was printed in Alexandria in Egypt, especially while he was working there at that stage in time. Another teaching of his will state over, Melamed, Sharbeh Chochma Lischut Kol Adam Lotzi Mach Kabla Nishmato. That's another important teaching he will give away, friends. And I think this very much is advocated, if I'm not mistaken, once again in the Marpeh Lennefesh. I believe on the 2nd page, if I'm not mistaken, that is a teaching very much featured over there. And the 3rd teaching that he gives from his book, what we're using actually the notes of the Hayomi website at the moment with in regard to illustrate some of his teachings. Melamed Lefi She'ein Ma'asehem Na'im Einom Nechshavim Lekulam. This is something he teaches over. I think this actually featured in page 30 of this great Torah Colossal book, once again printed in the year 1899. And I remember we said that I think he wanted the 2nd chelik of the book, but I don't think it went into print at the end. Melamed Gadol Ma'aseh Achedim Shemakdimim B'Ma'aseh. Another importance of the great acts that other people do in of itself. So this, I think, is actually, if I'm not mistaken, is featured, I believe, on page Yutet, 19th page over here. So very, very important. Another important teaching, let's just say, in of itself. Now, couple more final teachings, let's just say, which he gives in this book, and then we will conclude. We're speaking about Rabbi Bdokh over here. Melamed ke shimranishim b'mitato lekabel mitzvot naaseh shutaf ba'otam hamitzvot. This one of the teaching he gives over. Now, I believe this is very much featured, if I'm not mistaken, I believe on obviously inside the same book. I think it's in page Lamed Hey, the 35th page of the Marpeh Lennefesh Torah Colossal Work also. And one last teaching he gives over, friends, over here before we will wrap up and conclude. It says, Melamed Shemora Av V'Em Nitchayev Le'emuna B'mitziato or B'hashkachato. This, I think, is featured very much, I believe, in I think in page number 36 in Amud Aleph. Remember, I think this was actually printed through Perek Chaim Mizrahi, if I'm not mistaken. I remember this was in the year 1899, so he was a great rabbi of his time. It would be good to speak a bit more about Rav Al-Khadif, who he was very close to also during his years also. And yeah, I think we've spoken already inside this series about possibly a good, maybe as many as at least 30 rabbis that worked in Egypt, if not even more. So that's absolutely phenomenal achievement over here, and we're going really, really from strength to strength over here inside this community. Now, friends, everyone joining in live, please subscribe to the channel now. At the moment, we are nearing a staggering, at the moment, 8,000 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement over here. So please join our community, and we're going from strength to strength and learning more, and the importance of learning about the great Oriental rabbis of yesteryear. There's not much being said over in the English language within regards to them, and how important it is to learn about it. The plan is to maybe formulate an encyclopedia at one stage in time relating over about the great rabbis from the Oriental countries of yesteryear. So that will be very, very important, I just think, to state about. We spoke about Rabbi Eliyahu Bachor Chazan. Remember, many of these people would actually come from great rabbinic dynasties in its own right. Many, many great rabbinic dynasties. So one rabbi that will become very, very prominent at the end, that will result in, there them marrying into other rabbinic families and really taking on various different importances and so on and so forth. And many of these rabbis in these official Chacham Bashir roles, they will take on many different undertakings from a interfaith way of life also. When I say that, I mean they'll be in connection with other dignitaries, other figures, important figures all throughout the various different spectrums in of its own right. So that's very, very important to put away. Now friends, we don't just record over here on this channel biography videos of great rabbis. One project we're working on at the moment is to record the history of the Jewish communities in various different countries all over the world. So we've been speaking about in the last week about Bolivia, we spoke about Jamaica, the Jewish community, Afghanistan, even Pakistan. We spoke about Switzerland. We completed the video yesterday with regard to Switzerland and various different countries. So just importance learning the breadth. What were the synagogues like? What were the yeshivot like? The kollels. What actually took place was a lot of anti-Semitism in a lot of these countries. That's what we're exploring at the moment. We've covered pretty much most South American countries, and the plan now is to go into more European territory and explore those countries also. That's another project that we're working on. Another thing we do on this channel, friends, over here, another reason why to definitely subscribe, I would very, very much strongly recommend everyone to subscribe to the channel. We do over here tours all over Israel, especially in Israel and in Jerusalem and in Bet Shemesh. If you notice, a lot of these videos I record on these biography videos, I go to different places. I like to be spontaneous and move about. So we travel, we see the archaeology, we see the landmarks areas. We've done nearly about 100 tours all over Jerusalem already. So another fantastic, and we do a lot of short clips also of various great sites of Israel, and it's like we are like the biggest promoters of Eretz Israel, Yishuv Eretz Israel, and passion for the land of Israel. And one other special project that we've got working on at the moment is we record with a different great Jewish personality. Every day we feature someone important that is a mover and a shaker in the Jewish world to give over some great wisdom. We've had many Rosh Yeshivot, head of Talmudic academies already that has spoken, different rabbis and different important Jewish figures, also soldiers. So the plan is to reach out to many people and to share over some wisdom for a couple of minutes and to really boost and energize our day. So that's another thing we're working on. Another thing we're very, very proud about on this channel is that we're recording a daily tidbit on the Daf Yomi, on a wisdom from the Talmud on each page. The whole world is learning this cycle called the Daf Yomi. It's a daily page of Gemara. Everyone's learning the same page together. So we'll share over an idea for a more beginner 21st century listener to really connect with the Talmud and get imbued and to get enthusiastic and to get inspired also. So that is really coming leaps and bounds. We've been doing that really for a staggering 3.5 years. So that's something that we have to point out. And don't forget, we also record videos here on the weekly Torah portion, the Parashat HaShavua. It happens to be this week, Parashat Vayetze. And we do on other Jewish topics that are grappling, let's just say, the Jewish world every single day, every single moment. So a lot to actually take in at the moment. We're speaking about Rabbi Bdokh today. Aleph Kislev happens to be his Hilula according to the Hayomi website. I don't know if we officially know the date he actually passed away, or Hayomi wasn't able to tell us itself. We couldn't trace it, but be that as may, it was a great rabbi, and I think there was a date when Haskamot, the approval for his great Torah book, was actually published in of itself. Now, friends, one more request. If any of you descend from any of the rabbis we're speaking about, we've spoken about nearly close to 1,400 rabbis already. We've done a biography videos here on this series. Please send me an email. I would love to hear more information if you've got on them, or any manuscripts, or any photos. I'd really, really appreciate it. And I've had many relatives of the great Chachamim that have actually come and reached out to me after they've seen the materials and so on and so forth. And they've seen it and been very, very thankful for it. So that's something that we are trying to explore and concentrate on at the moment, which I feel is very, very, very important. So I think on this note, I'm going to leave you all to it. And please don't forget once again to subscribe to the channel, and wishing you a fantastic day. Take care and be well. Recording this, friends, from the city of Bet Shemesh in Israel. So if any of you are living outside of Israel, I very much recommend Aliyah. Everybody, there's nothing like being here in this beautiful country of Israel, learning Torah, Torah Eretz Israel. Nothing beats it, friends, over here. Wish you all a fabulous day. Thanks for watching.